Welcome to Order Militaris Radio TV. Today's topic, Greeting the Guards of St. Casimir. Again, we welcome Brother Alexis Bonello to the show. And how you doing?
Thank you, AJ, for having me on. I'm always glad to be on Order Militaris Radio TV, breaking new grounds in independent Catholic media in the English-speaking world, to talk about something that is really needed: the defense of our churches and statues.
Yeah, more so today than in other days. Wake up, see the news. Another cathedral's on fire in France.
Yeah, not just any cathedral. The Cathedral at Nantes is one of the great masterpieces of architecture in France. It's right on the northern edge of the Vendée.
So let's introduce everybody to St. Casimir. Who was he?
So we're doing this program at St. Casimir because of the need to defend churches and the wonderful example of this group of Polish Catholics at, what's the name of their parish there in?
St. Florian.
St. Florian's Parish there in Michigan, who got together and they're armed and they're going to defend their parish against vandals. Wonderful group, and hopefully we'll get in contact with them. We tried to contact them through the parish. The parish doesn't seem to have passed our information on. So if you know of them, the group of guys there appeared on social media with their guns around the cross, let them know. We'd love to have them on.
Yeah.
So St. Casimir is a Polish saint, and one of the great saints, honest and upright man. He was a prince of the Kingdom of Poland and of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. We're talking now the 15th century, mid-15th century, when Poland was at the height of its power. Most people think of Poland as a small little humble nation that is beaten down by everyone on their sides. But there was a time when the Poles, let us say, did the beating, and they ruled over vast territories ranging from the western borders of Germany to deep inside the Ukraine, and from the Baltic Sea down into Hungary. And it was on that age that Casimir was born as the second son of King Casimir IV. His father, Jagiellon, famous noble family of the Polish dynasty, was born October 3rd, 1458, and he died March 4th, 1484.
So his grandpa was very important for Lithuania. Tell us what he did for that country.
His grandfather. Yeah, okay, so the Jagiellon, I'm not sure if that's exactly how you would pronounce the family name. The Jagiellon family was one of the great houses of Polish history. Most people don't know that Poles, even though they were at a time a certain kind of confederated republic, had nobilities and lived under Christian monarchy, like most Catholics. After they were converted to the Catholic faith, I think it was around the 8th or the 9th century. So his grandfather, Vladislav II Jagiello, one of the great members of his family, was Grand Duke of Lithuania and then King of Poland. And he ruled Lithuania from 1377 on. He was born himself in 1352, died in 1434. He was born a pagan, and he converted to the Catholic faith. Most people don't know that as late as the 14th century, there were pagans in Europe along the Baltics, and the Lithuanians, the Latvians, the Estonians, they were the last to be Christianized in Europe. And so he was born a pagan, and he converted to Catholicism, was baptized at Władysław in Krakow, and he led his whole nation into the church. So he did a wonderful thing. And the Lithuanians today are some of the most devout Catholics very devoted to the cross, very devoted to Christ and the Catholic religion. You might know the name of a famous Lithuanian today, Archbishop Lenga of Poland, who is one of the only two bishops in the world to have the courage to come out and say Bergoglio's a heretic. And Benedict never resigned validly and is still the Pope, and he's a Lithuanian. And you see, I don't understand Polish, but you can see even the way he speaks and comport himself. He's a man of great virtue, great fiery zeal, like all the Lithuanian people.
Oh boy. I have to help me with the names of the tutors of Saint Casimir. What do we know about him?
So let's start with the priest, Priest Jan. I think it's Georgis. Georgis is how you pronounce his name. He was a great Latinist, a chronicler, a diplomat, a soldier. In Western style of writing, we call him Johannes Longinus. And he was born on the 1st of December, 1415. He died May 1480. He was one of the great Renaissance scholars of Poland, the first to write down its history. He wrote the history of Poland from 965 to 1480 in his 12-volume Annals or Chronicles of the Famous Kingdom of Poland is the title of his book. And he served in a lot of diplomatic functions for the kings of Poland, but his most important work was probably being tutor of Saint Casimir. And in those days, the kings of Europe, the high princes, would always choose to be a tutor for their son, a learned priest. And that's what made Catholic monarchy have the best of the best rulers, because they chose the best to teach them. Whereas in the modern state, they'll choose the most scurrilously depraved, morally and ideologically perverse people to teach your children, because they want to make your children scurrilously depraved, ideologically perverse, and morally bankrupt. So whenever you hear anyone poo-pooing monarchy, remember that it was monarchy who taught people right and really tried to build them up, whereas modern democracy tries to tear them down. So that was his tutor, Jan Dworzec, I think. Excuse me, the Poles out there. And his other tutor was the bishop, Orzechowski. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But so he was trained by holy men, learned men, and because he wasn't the heir to the throne right off the bat. Okay, he was only second in line, but still, his father was a good man and saw that he had the best tutors, best not only in the sense of learning but also morals.
When was he chosen to be the king of Hungary, and why was it short-lived?
Okay, so Kazmir's uncle, that means the brother of his father, Ladislaus the Posthumous, was king of Hungary and king of Bohemia. He died in 1457. You have to remember that the crown of Hungary passed among families because it was, in some cases, elected. In other cases, it was won in war. But it wasn't held by the same family all the time. So he dies without heirs, and that means the claim to the crown goes to the nearest male heir. So his father, Prince Kazmir's father, claimed it for himself. And he couldn't act on that claim right away in 1457 because Poland was embroiled with a war against the Teutonic Knights on the Baltic Seas, and they were supporting the Prussian cities that were rising up against Teutonic rule. So the crown of Hungary passed to a man by the name of George Protobrady. But when he died, his Kazmir's father claimed the throne for him, and that was in May of 1471. So he claimed it first for his eldest son, Vladislav, and the Hungarian nobles didn't want him. And they overthrew his brother. So his brother fled, and so his father decided to attempt to win the crown of Hungary for himself. And it wasn't a successful campaign. It was kind of like the father really wanted to do something for his son. He didn't well think of it out. He only sent 12,000 men. He didn't properly supply them. They wouldn't be able to achieve their objectives. They met a superior force in the field, then they withdrew, and then with bad supplies and disease and low morale, their army kind of just dwindled away. So militarily, it was a complete failure. And but it was all part of God's plan in sanctifying Stanislaus, because his vocation wasn't to be king of Hungary.
Then after that, it goes on how his father prepared him, and when he left for business in Lithuania, he left Casimir in charge of Poland. And how did he run the country?
Yeah, so after the failed Hungary campaign, Casimir was in the presence of his father most of the time, was part of his father's court. He was considered an able counselor. But after an assassination attempt against both father and son, the father thought it prudent enough to separate his son from him and send him to different locations so he wouldn't be murdered. So while his father was off campaigning, he was made king of Poland. He was known for his justice, his fairness, his care for the poor, his temperance, his peacefulness, his faith. He was offered the hands of marriage on several occasions, but he refused them because he wanted to live a celibate life. He was discerning a call to religious life, and you have to understand that in the Middle Ages, when a monarch was exceptionally virtuous, everyone was really amazed by it, because like in all things, most rulers ruled for their own sake, and a man who knew how to control himself and rule fairly was high praise. So he was loved by all his people.
So how and when did he die?
So he had a habit of doing a lot of fasting, and he came down with tuberculosis, and there he got his health decreased even further at Vilnius there in Lithuania, and he died in March 4th, 1484. His father was so close to him that when he heard his son was dying, he rushed to Lithuania to be with him, and he's buried currently in the Vilnius Cathedral, and he is one of the great saints. We can assume a Polish saint, but he's buried actually in old Lithuanian city, a great Lithuanian saint, because you gotta remember his family is Lithuanian.
Speak on his miracles, and especially the one with the Lithuanian army. For this reason, we took him as a patron.
Okay, so first a little about his personal virtue. He was known to be extremely intelligent, extremely humble, extremely polite. I mentioned he was his fair and justice. Very devoted to God. He would spend hours on his knees praying. He could be found before dawn kneeling at the gates of the church, waiting for the gates of the church to open. He composed a prayer in hexameter on the mysteries of the Incarnation, so he was very devoted to Christ. And when they opened his tomb years after his death, they found a copy of the song "Daily, Daily Sing to Mary" by Saint Bernard of Cluny. And in fact, in Poland to this day, many people will call that the prayer of Saint Kazmir. He's very devoted to Our Lady. So his miracles after his death are first at the siege of Polotosk in 1518. The Lithuanian army didn't know how to cross the river, and he appeared to them and indicated where they could cross the Daugava River and relieve the city from being sieged. It was currently under siege by the Grand Duchy of Moscow. And then in 1519, he appeared again to the Lithuanian army at the siege of Polotsk, and he had a habit of appearing to the soldiers of his army, of his family's army, and indicating what them to do. So shows you that even from heaven, he was acting like a prince of Poland, and many other miracles are attested to him. In fact, there's a famous painting of him with two right hands, showing he was his work doing good works was exceptional, because you have the left hand is a symbol of bad works. His painting is painted with double works, and there in Vilnius, people go before that image of Saint Casimir and ask for favors.
Okay. What will be this Guards of Saint Casimir?
So after seeing this wonderful example of these guys there in the Polish parish of Saint Florian, AJ and I talked a lot about this, because this is not the first time we're going to talk about the issue that Catholics need to defend their churches and their religious imagery. This was already a topic on Ordo Militaris Radio back when there was that spate of church burnings, which hasn't stopped in France. And now with BLM and Antifa going around and intentionally attacking Catholic statues and churches, it's all the more the reason. We're not living in an age of law and order anymore. The Marxists now have such institutional support in corporations, in the mass media, and in politics, that they pretty much can do what they like, okay? And the few police in your town can't protect every site. So there's a lot more Catholics in any town than there's police. So defend your church. And these guys are doing it the right way. They seem to be all veterans of the military, of the police forces. They're certainly well armed. And, go to your pastor. And it's just as Catholics sign up to adore the Blessed Sacrament all night long, Catholic men can sign up to take 2 or 3 hour shift and guard their church on the outside. Because when you're guarding the church on the outside, you are adoring our Lord and the Blessed Sacrament. Because why are you guarding it? Because that's his house, okay? So you don't have to be on your knees before the tabernacle to receive grace from Christ. You can be standing out the side of the front door with a submachine gun, okay, and body armor. So there's many ways to worship God. This is a wonderful thing that men can do. And so AJ said, what should we call the nationwide organization that could found clubs all around the country? So let's call it St. Casimir. Because he was fair, he was just, and he was honest, and he was a big defender of the church. So this is what it would be. Of course, you don't have to call it the Guards of St. Casimir. You can call your group or anything else. But in every parish, most especially in the ones that have in prominent public locations or in extremely anti-Catholic parts of the country, or which are of great artistic or monumental value, or have maybe a statue outside that might be the object of some nuts, prejudice or bigotry. You can't just leave the place empty at night, okay? It's not enough to have cameras. Cameras are only going to record the destruction in process. They're not going to save your parish from the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to rebuild if it's destroyed. And if your parish, church, or property suffers grave damage, the bishop might just be forced to close it because he doesn't have the money. So it's a lot cheaper for you to organize a group of men in your parish and, field a guard. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to stand outside with a gun in hand. You could sit in a car nearby, so you see what's happening, ready to go, so that no one sees you're watching the property, His cell phone ready to call the police or anything. And you start your group, then you put up a sign. This property is patrolled by the Guards of St. Casimir, And by the way, we are armed with guns. And most protesters won't get any, once they see that, they're going to go the other way because they're not idiots. Okay. So this is a wonderful opportunity to show your faith and to give public witness. Okay. Men, after all, are supposed to take a prominent role in the Catholic faith. The Catholic faith is not about women holding rosaries. It's supposed to be about men leading everyone to God. So this is a wonderful thing, and Catholics have a right to do it. And it's perfectly legal. Okay, you organize your group as a small nonprofit security company that works for free, and there you go. Might even start a company, start a livelihood. You might find Protestant ministers calling up and say, "We need security at our churches too," and you start a company and a business. So,
what roles will it do in the community?
yeah. So, well, obviously, you should defend your church and your church's property, and that's not just at night. You could also do it in the daytime. You know how much money parishes will pay to have a policeman be like a crossing guard or direct traffic coming in and out of the parking lot? Many towns, they need that. Because why? No one in the parish volunteers. Okay. And that priest is charging $250 every Sunday morning. It doesn't even, eats up the collection. So, instead of you putting $10 in the collection, volunteer it to be security on Sunday mornings or something of that, especially if you're retired military or retired police. Wonderful service, and that's the way you can give back to your parish and present and guarantee that it is a place of worship for the next generation. It doesn't get burnt down or destroyed or people get harassed. Because alas, we're coming to an age where persecution is getting more and more, and as the saints tell us, it's soon going to break out on a tremendous level. And in many countries, tens of thousands of Catholics are going to be put to death. Why? Because they don't have anyone in the parish to defend them. Okay, no one's organizing.
Mm-hmm.
People are just laying back and saying, nothing's going to happen. The police will protect us. But they can't protect everyone.
How will each group be founded and properly led?
Yeah, so ask your pastor to put an announcement in the bulletin or make an announcement from the pulpit. Have the men gather together and have a meeting. I think if you sit down at a table together, or, wherever you want to meet, you ask each guy's resume. The guy who's held a command position in the military, he's the one that should be the military command. If there's a guy who's a businessman there and knows business, he should be the one in charge of the finances. And organize yourself as a nonprofit security company, and or a for-profit security company, as you will. And once you get all your stuff together, there'll be men there who know the local gun laws about whether it's concealed or open carry and the licenses you need to have. And it doesn't take long. In most states, you can organize in a company within a month or two. It doesn't take long at all. So once you're organized, then let everyone know you exist. And you'll be amazed how people support you. As they come by, they'll stuff a $10 bill in your pocket there, because they want to support what you're doing. And then you take a collection up now and then, or you have a website with a PayPal donation button or a Stripe donation. And go ahead with it. Trust in God. If you're defending Christ's house, Christ will see that and he'll come to your help. Because that's what we need to be doing. And that's our duty as Catholics. We shouldn't rely on secular police to defend our churches. We have men in our parish who can do that. They're the ones to do that. So,
who can join?
well, obviously, you should recruit only men who have had military training or self-defense training, okay? Because they need to know how to do it. They just can't have the will. This is a wonderful opportunity for Catholic men who join the military and come out and can't find work. And, call them up and put out an announcement in all the parishes in the town. If you've been in the U.S. military and now you're out of work, contact us. We'll put you to work. And that's a great way to go. And we're entering an age where security companies are going to be much more needed than they were ever needed. And they need, and most security companies have a guy who can stand there with a gun and look tough. But we're going to need security companies that know how to take that safety lock off and start firing rounds and know how to fire rounds and to control crowds and stuff. Because these people, their rabidness isn't going to go away. It's just going to get more. And it's probably going to break out in November. If Trump wins the election, they're going to go wild and start trashing all the cities of America. Don't you doubt it in the least. Okay. And if Trump loses and Biden wins, they're going to do the same, because then they're going to think they have license to do it. And there might be absolute chaos between the beginning of November until the end of January in America. You might have all the cities on fire. We don't know what's going to happen, but now's the time to prepare. You've been given sufficient warning by what's going on. Statues of Christ decapitated, statues of Our Lady burnt or having the words idol written on them, historic churches in California being burned down. You had some maniac liberal drive his car into a church in Florida and then attempt to pour gasoline all over the place and burn it down. I mean, this is absolute pure hate. Okay, we're not even attempt the threats to tear down the statue of St. Louis in Missouri. Thanks be to God, the Catholics gathered around and made a show. But if they don't guard that thing 24 hours a day, someone's going to come and tear it down, just out of spite. So where are the Catholics in St. Louis? I'm sure there are probably 100 Catholic veterans in St. Louis who are currently unemployed, that if any Catholic businessman said, hey, let's start a Guards of Kazmir and guard that statue, you call it Guards of St. Louis, you'd have a lot of willing, highly trained individuals who already know what to do, okay, and already know how to use the equipment. So it just takes a desire to do it, because you're not going to recast that statue and rebuild it if it's destroyed. That is a masterpiece of art, and no one does bronze work like that anymore. That would cost you probably more than $1 million to redo. It's a lot easier to, organize a group of Catholic volunteers to defend it. And when everyone sees a strong defense, not only when they read in the newspaper in the morning, Catholics defending the statue of St. Louis with armed, you won't hear another Catholic church in that whole diocese attacked. No, because everyone's going to say, watch out, don't go for the Catholic churches, they're armed. And then you defend all the churches in the diocese just by defending one statue. So, this is very easy to do. There's a lot of people who can do it. We just need to be willing to do it and get the ball rolling.
How should they work with their local parishes, parish halls, and even the local police?
Okay, so once you're organized, you go to the pastors and say, look, we're willing to give you free security and protection. And the pastors who believe they need it will gladly say, definitely. And they'll tell you how to do it, and they'll be able to give you the counseling about that. Because the pastor has advice with the diocesan lawyers to know when, under what circumstances. Maybe they're going to want a contract and things like that. But obviously with local police, as any security organization you should, as soon as you're founded, let them know you exist. Invite the sheriff or the chief of police or one of the reps over to one of your meetings to meet all your men. And if he wants a background check on him, give him all your paperwork and stuff, and explain him your goals and your training, and he'll give you some pointers, and he'll explain what kind of procedure they want if you see conflict, because obviously they don't want engagements, they want people to warn. So most of the 99.9999% of the time you're there just as a deterrent, okay? And the police should come, but when all hell's breaking around the city, the first thing the chief of police is going to be glad to know is that there's a group protecting your church and they're already armed, because then he doesn't have to send his men there. He can send them to, where there is no security. So, but coordinate with them and ask them openly, how can we participate in a citywide or countywide or statewide security response to civil unrest, okay? And tell you're willing to do that, not just defend your parish. So, because they might have need down the street, and he knows he can call your group up and deputize you in the spot. So, depends on what your state in, whether you're going to get a friendly or hostile response. So, feel that out first, because if you're going to get a hostile response, then find a lawyer who's an expert with security companies and work with him, and be more limited in the information you share with the hostile politicians or hostile police forces.
Any special patches will the people wear?
Yeah, you should wear the cross, okay? You should let people know that you're a Catholic defense organization. Don't call yourself Acme Security, okay? You know, so if your parish is called St. Casimir or St. Louis of France, you know, use a symbol that is Christian and is associated with the saint, you know, have some courage, right? In America, they don't have to worry about that, but in other countries, it might be more radical to do, but all the more reason, you know. In France, wear that cross on your shoulder. The secularists will go wild. Who cares? That's what you want them to do if they want to go wild, you know. So, and if they say, I see a cross and that offends me, you say, look it, that's 4 white squares on a blue field. If you see a cross, that's because you're a bigot. You know, throw back the psychology at them, you know.
Why is the group now necessary after seeing so many churches burned and cathedrals burned in France? And
the police cannot be everywhere. And when you have civil unrest, see, the police are not designed to quell civil unrest. The police are designed to patrol the streets against obvious, visible criminality of the small kind, not of the big kind. So the National Guard or the military are designed for military operations or large-scale unrest. There's really no organization designed for middle-level unrest, groups of gangs going around and coordinated together to do crime. Police might be able to take down some members of a gang, but when you have several hundred people on the street involved in criminal activity, the police are not really designed to handle that. They could put up their shields and block off things, but it's very difficult for them to subdue that kind of organization. So you need to organize a large armed group to counter it, okay? Because if you have 10 men armed and they have 100 people that aren't armed, well, I think they're going to go down another street, you know? So, but you should pay attention to how to handle crowds, study crowd control, crowd riot responses, ways of non-violently engaging individuals, because these people do try to provoke and they do want to create an incident. Okay, so you in your parish recruit everyone of every ethnicity. So when anyone sees a picture of your group, they can say, "You're not bigots," because that will be the charge they use. So.
kind of hard out here. Mostly, we're pretty much white German.
Well, it depends. And you don't have much violence out where you are, AJ. I'm talking about the cities, you know. That's why you're not going to see violence like that, precisely because of what you've just said, you know. And because you're Republican.
Anything else? Should they contact the order and get with you? And
Yeah, well, I have a kind of like a Rolodex of military trainers and advisors that are willing to come and give courses anywhere in the world to any kind of group. So yeah, if you need someone like that, they can train your guys to work together. You know, if you want to do like a summer camp together with your 12 guys for a month and you have a place around, yeah, I can call us up and I'll send off your contact to ours, and so you can get someone to come and train your men in small group tactics, which is becoming more and more useful, you know, because when you're meeting a large crowd, you need to work together in a coordinated way to respond to that.
anything else?
Catholics have to become active in their faith. Civilizations fall when people become addicted to being passive and just watching everything on the television. That's just totally wrong. Okay, may not seem very exciting to stand out your church for several hours a day. You're not using, without any access to your cell phone or video games or anything like that. But it's a necessary work, and it's a wonderful example. And you can do a rotating schedule of stuff, and but organize it in a kind of call-up way. All your men should have some kind of device where if he's under a threat, he can press a button and that signal goes out to the other guys on their cell phones, and they can immediately come there, okay, and know what kind of a threat it is. So if you can afford getting yourself body cameras and having Wi-Fi hooked up, do that. It's absolutely necessary. An age of persecution is coming. Our Lady of Fatima told us about it 100 years ago, and now it's beginning to break out, okay? And it might elapse for a while, but it's going to come back even stronger. There's going to be cycles of it, okay? So, you have to prepare for it, okay? You can't just assume it's not going to happen. All the damage that's already been done to the cities in the United States is because civic groups, parishes, churches, no one thought it would happen, okay? We've been warned now, okay? You've been warned, so now you need to take action, okay? And imitate those wonderful men there, the parish of St. Florian in Michigan, and organize a group, okay? The mere fact that you put a picture on social media together will already be a big deterrent, okay? And but meet and do a shows of force now and then, and during the quiet times, because that will get the message out. When the mob comes, they go, no, I remember coming by that place 3 months ago on a Sunday, and I saw 4 guys with guns there. Let's turn the corner and go down the street to another place. That's because that's the way they're cowards. That's the way they think. So very important, very easy to do, very low effort, and you'll be praised by everyone in your community. Everyone will praise you for it.
Yeah. If you guys were on Twitter and you saw your photo being shared in so many awesome, wonderful comments, you'd be like, and then trying to track you down to do a show on this. I gave our contact information to your parish secretary, trying to track you down. So please get in contact with us.
What time was that in, AJ?
Let's see here.
Was it? You told me it was one of the major cities there.
Hamtramck.
Hamtramck?
Hamtramck. It's near Detroit.
Okay. Okay, so it's a suburb of Detroit.
Okay. In the Polish area.
Mm-hmm. And this is something Catholics can do everywhere, okay? Even if you form a group in your parish and there's not much threat there, you let the other parishes in your county know about it, and you might get some contacts. And once you build a reputation, it might be called up in other places. And I'm telling you, don't be surprised at all that your little nonprofit and your little charitable organization becomes a company pretty quickly, because security companies of this kind are highly necessary. They're very necessary. And they're going to become more necessary. So the best time to do this organization is in peacetime. So if you're experiencing some kind of peace in your neighborhood, that's the time to organize. And it'll be a wonderful example of the young men on taking responsibility. So.
It's been a good, short little program. We'll have more on burning in Nance tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but Monday. Go over again what was found in the local area here. Get brother's take on it, and a few other news stories out of Europe where those being sexually assaulted are being blamed, but the terrorists doing it are not being blamed.
All that is part of our AJ's weekly roundup on terrorism that airs every Monday.
Yeah. So we go to ordo-militaris.net. You'll see all of our shows, previous shows, upcoming schedule. Click any of the show topic pages. Scroll down. You'll see become a free will monthly subscriber or one-time donor. Please do that so we can keep upgrading our equipment, get our own building, computers, servers, everything, so we don't have to rely on other platforms from different hostile countries that don't like Ordo Militaris that much. So,
And I encourage you to support Ordo Militaris Radio TV. We have great plans for expanding this station, but we can't do it without your help. So many thanks to the one individual who's pledging $20 a month, and to the other individuals who've made individual one-time pledges of 100 or less amounts. So great support for the beginning, but please keep us in Ordo Militaris Radio in mind, and if you like the program, show it by making a small one-time or recurring subscription pledge. You find the button at the bottom of the page of any show.
yeah. This is Ordo Militaris Radio TV signing off. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.